What's going on, DFS Army? It's Craig Bennett, aka Cash Keg here. It's Super Bowl time, man. Super Bowl time. It's never too early to start looking at the Super Bowl. And I thought, why not come on and do a first look DraftKings lineup build for you? I know we got a couple weeks, but I mean, look at that trophy over there, man. It's going to be a fun game. The total is stupid high. I think it's 56 and a half over under. KC favored by 3.5. Who do you got to win? Let me know in the comments who you think's going to win. But let's just dive right in here, man. Like I said, I'm going to build a few lineups, just kind of talk how I think things are going. You know, it's super early. Things are going to change once we, kind of get a better feel on ownership. We'll have a better read on it. But I always like kind of getting a feel of things before we really jump into it. But again, February 7th is going to be here before we know it. And we might as well start digging in now. And if you like videos like this, again, hit that subscribe button for me. Hit that thumbs up. Let's keep this train rolling. And let's talk some NFL Super Bowl on DraftKings. All right, here we go. Again, DraftKings, $1 million up top, $10 to get in this beast. They get all kinds of contests. Watch out for videos. I think I'm going to do a prop bet video for the Super Bowl as well once I've looked at them all and kind of put that together. But again, we're going to have full coverage over at DFS Army. If you're not a subscriber, again, use promo code CashKeg, sign up. Absolutely, we'll have VIP videos, VIP podcast, cheat sheets. We'll have everything, man. So again, head on over there, sign up, and help you win some money, man. But again, first look here. Let's do a first look on DraftKings. And the first two things, you'll see question marks on Watkins and Brown. They're both going to play. They're both expected to suit up. So that does change some things on the KC side, some value. But I expect them both to play. So and the way I'm going to explain this video, I'm expecting them both to play. Now, for me, on DraftKings, captain slot, I don't want to use quarterbacks. One thing with Mahomes is he's kind of had a hurt toe. So we got 2 weeks for him to heal. He's still going to be a little mobile, don't get me wrong, but I don't think he's going to, be burning off 40-yarders. So at their prices, I just don't want to play quarterbacks up at my captain spot. To me, this is wide receivers and tight ends only here. You can make a case for Lenny. You can make a case for playoff Lenny, man. Lenny Fournette. Like Leonard Fournette's been on a roll here. You can make a case for him. But for the most part, I think we have enough value where we can play about any of these guys up top. So on the KC side, I think my favorite captains again are going to be Kelsey and Hill, and that's no surprise there. Hill actually torched this team back earlier when they won 27-24. Torched them for 60 DraftKings points. Let's see, right down here, they played on week 12. 15 targets, 13 balls, 269, 3 touchdowns. They ended up winning this game 27-24. Put up 60 DraftKings points. If he repeated that, he's by far going to be the winning captain slot. So, people are going to look at that. People are going to talk about that. He's going to be popular. But I think you have to have some with that upside. There's just no way around it. Kelsey and Hill I think they set the record for back-to-back playoff games for both going over 100 yards. So, they're their complete offense here. So, again, you're going to want to build lineups with Hill and Kelsey. Let's build one with Hill first here. And we're going to need some value when we throw a guy up this expensive. And we got 68.80 left. I think one spot we can look at that hasn't been great lately, but actually performed really well against this team back in the week that they played in the regular season here. And I'm talking about Tom Brady's main homeboy, Rob Gronkowski. KC is bad against tight ends. They've been bad against tight ends this year. 30th in the league when it comes to fantasy points given up. So I love Gronk. I mean, look, everybody's going to see this and be like, he's not being used, not doing anything. Played KC in week 12, caught 6 balls for 106. Didn't get in the end zone, but for 19 DraftKings points. Not saying, that this is going to happen again, but, if Brady's getting in trouble, he's going to lean on him a little bit here. And I don't mind him or Brate. If you want to go up to Brate at 4,800, I think he's perfectly viable as well. I'm just going to throw Gronk in this dummy lineup because he's 3K and he opens up some things, and we got to look for some upside. And the reason I talk about him a little bit is he's 3K in those defenses. Those defenses on this slate, they're both 2,800 for the Bucks and 2,600 for the Chiefs. And honestly, unless they get a sack and a touchdown, I don't think I want to play them. I would rather take a shot on Gronk or somebody like that going for 20 fantasy points than I would a defense. But again, weirder things have happened. I just think that I would stay off that. Now, I also mentioned on the KC side, Watkins is due back. Now, that's really going to hurt the playing time for Pringle, Robinson, and those guys. So it's really going to be hard to play those guys. And they are cheap, Pringle and Robinson. But Watkins, when he goes in there, it's going to kill those guys. So if we think Watkins comes in and, he can catch you 5 or 6 balls for, 60, 70 yards, maybe gets a touchdown, he's cheap as well. Or if you want to say maybe KC, kind of focuses on the wide receivers and they leave tight ends. I think a unique build could be going double tight end. Maybe you go Gronk and Brate. That's a unique way to look at it as well, and it opens up salary. Because I do think, you're still going to want to play, if you're throwing Kelsey up there, I don't think if it's going to be a super high-scoring game, there's, of course, and if you're playing a cash game or something, or you're playing like a high money, you're probably going to want to throw in Mahomes in here. And you probably want to throw in Brady if you think it's going to be a high-scoring affair. But I don't like setting so many rules because, what if it's one of those things where it's high-scoring, but, Kelsey and Hill have all the touches, right? Maybe Kelsey and Hill both put up 150 and 2 touchdowns each or something like that. And they would outscore Mahomes that way. There's ways it could happen, or you can go maybe a full KC onslaught stack with Hill, Kelsey, and Mahomes. Run it back with the tight ends on Tampa Bay. And then you can look at one guy that's going to be super popular, but makes me so damn nervous is Jones, man. 2,200. I already know he's going to be super, super owned at that price tag. But again, Leonard Fournette's taken over that role over the last 3 weeks. As you can see, hasn't been doing much, no receptions at all. Like Fournette's been the reception running back. He's been doing really well as we pull him up. So at like 2,200, and he's going to be popular. That's a spot I'll just willing to fade and hope that it doesn't bite me in the butt. Because I think he's going to be like 40 or 50% owned at that price tag. I can't get behind it. So maybe it's one of those things where we're like, okay, well, I'll take all my KC love, Kelsey and Hill. I'll come in here and put in playoff Lenny. And I got 7,800. And this is another thing we got to talk about with the KC side. Edwards-Helaire is going to be healthy. We're going to have Bell's going to be back into the fold, and we got Williams. Darrell Williams been in the fold as well. So it's a Super Bowl, man. They're going to play to win. I think Edwards-Helaire is going to have a bigger role than Williams. They used Williams more last week in the win against the Bills. He had 13 for 52 and a touchdown, caught 1 ball for 9 yards for 13 fantasy points. Edwards-Helaire didn't do anything in the passing game and only ran for six balls there. But I think a lot of that has to do with maybe he wasn't 100% healthy, getting back in the swing of things. So again, you got these guys that are recency biased and, go after the best, looking for those big games. I have no problem running him in. Maybe you want to run both running backs and they're heavily involved. And this is just no quarterbacks. You're just going a straight position. Things like this is what I'm looking to build if I'm trying to win $1 million, because I guarantee you, if you have Hill up at captain, almost every one of those lineups is going to have a Mahomes or a Brady, and they're great plays. Don't get me wrong, but I won't have any lineups where I have Brady or Mahomes in the captain at all in the Super Bowl. When you're talking about a total this high, I want one of these guys that have shown they can break the slate where they like Mahomes is never putting up 60 like Hill did. And I don't expect Hill to put up 60. But Hill puts up 30. He could do it. I don't think Mahomes puts up a 30. Like he could. Don't get me wrong. He could pass it around. If Mahomes throws 5 or 6 touchdowns and it's to 4 or 5 different people, okay, he might be in the captain. I just think you need to take stands like that. And I like to keep my captain pool down to like 4 to 6 people is how I like to do it. So in builds where I like Tyreek Hill, like if you want to try to get Mahomes in there, then maybe you come down. You still want some playoff Lenny in there. Then maybe it's Antonio Brown. He should be fully healthy coming back. And that time off should hopefully help him out a little bit. So a build like that's interesting where you go the double tight end and you're basically just going all Hill. Maybe Hill gets that again. Maybe Hill gets your 60 and it's coming all from Mahomes. And then you're bringing it back with Tampa Bay, doing a little bit of everything. So I'll mention this. DFS Army has a really cool tool that Hunter Sinclair built that is fantastic for building game scripts. And I've done a video on it. If you're a VIP member of DFS Army, it's so awesome. You can adjust the score and it'll adjust the fantasy points as you build out how you feel like it's going to go. How many touchdowns you think KC has, how many field goals you think they have, what the score is going to be, and then it'll adjust the projections depending on the outcome of the game. And that's one thing that I don't think enough people think about when they're playing Showdown. Showdown's nothing but a game script. You really have to decide how you feel like the game is going to go and build those lineups around it. You just don't go in there and plug, a bunch of guys in and be like, that works. It has to be a correlated lineup. You have to think about how the game script's going to go. Is it going to be all in the air and no run? Is Tampa Bay going to run the ball a ton? And we feel like, okay, it's all going to be all Fournette, but I still want Gronk because he's cheap. But then, KC's just going to do everything by the air, and I don't want to play any running backs because they're going to be playing catch up. So, I want me a Hill and a Kelsey to bring it back here with Mahomes because they're going to be just playing catch up mode. And then I'm like, okay, well, there's a 600 guy. Well, maybe this is where I throw in McCoy, and McCoy, for some reason, is in there and catches a ball for 30 yards, and he's in the optimal. Like at that price, you have to consider him. I'm sorry, not McCoy, Bell. We're 200 short from Bell. I'm talking about Le'Veon Bell. Le'Veon Bell's going to get in there a little bit. 800 is very, very interesting. And we don't have it in this lineup. But again, I'm just talking about building your game scripts, how you feel like the game's going to go. If it's a run heavy on one team and the other team's playing catch up, or is it just a complete shootout where I'm like, okay, well, maybe I don't even need that many quarterbacks. I can just take all the skill position players. Is there going to be that many plays run where, Kelsey and Hill could still outscore Mahomes just in the sheer volume of catches and point per volume or points per catch? Like they could both get there, I mean, like when we look at what Kelsey's been doing, it's just been on a tear, 39-27. Now, when we go back to Tampa Bay, he only had 16 fantasy points. He caught 8 balls for 82, but he didn't get in the end zone because Hill did all that work. Hill caught 3 touchdowns. He got all the touchdowns that game. Now, if Hill gives one of those touchdowns to him and he catches 9 for $102, we're talking 3 and that's 9 more fantasy points. That's 25, right? And then it brings down Hill down to 50. He still would be there. So you got 25 and 50. There's ways around it where it could happen. It really depends on your game script. I think for me though, at this first look, just kind of talking through things, like I said, I want to pick a core of 4 or 6 captains that I want. And for me on the KC side, I have to have Hill and I have to have Kelsey because they can just break the damn slate. And I think we have enough value in there to do it. I'm not going to play Mahomes in the captain. I'm just not going to do it. So he's not one going to go in there. I don't feel like it's going to be an Edwards-Hilaire game at all. Again, going up against Tampa Bay, they're a good defensive team. I don't feel like it's going to be there at all. I think it's going to be through the air. It's going to be in the arm of Mahomes, and it's going to be through Kelsey and that. I think if there's one other guy I would take a shot on, it would be down here and look at Sammy Watkins, at 6,300. I'd have a consideration of putting him in. So if I put three on KC, it would be those three. And then on Tampa Bay side, again, it's really hard when you have Godwin, Evans, and Brown here, and an old playoff Lenny, man. I do want a little sliver of him. If he decides just to go off and break a few long ones, and maybe he gets a couple touchdowns, at the goal line. So maybe I start with 7 and kind of whittle things down, because it's real tough to decide between Godwin, Evans, and Brown as well. But I do feel like they should be in your pool. And if I'm not going my quarterbacks, maybe I'll have 7 in my 150 where I'm running all those skill position players. Again, I'm going to fade the running backs at captain on KC, and on Tampa, I think you can play some playoff Lenny, man. So again, that's going to be my pool at captain. I think you should make one, just debating on what you're going to do. Once we get ownership projections later towards the end of this week, probably early next week, I think you need to really look at those and decide what chalk you're going to fade or what you're going to be over or under the market. It's really important. But I mean, just already looking at it, I think Ronald Jones is going to be super high owned at that cheap price tag, at 2,200 in the flex. People are going to plug him in, and it's like one of those chalk pieces. Like, it's scary to fade at that price because if he does catch a ball and goes off, but those are the decisions you have to make. Like I said, with Watkins back, I think it's going to hurt Pringle. It's hurt Robinson. They're okay if you're building 150 to throw them in there because you never know what Andy Reid's going to do. And then same kind of thing with Brown back. It's going to hurt Tyler Johnson here. It's going to hurt Miller, those guys. And that's why I like Gronk in that price tag, $3K, man. Like, he hasn't done crap for so long. Nobody's going to play him. Like, I love it. And then down here, I was talking about Lev Bell, 800. I want a couple shots of him, with how expensive these guys are and how big numbers they can put up. I'm going to want a few cheap guys that I can just plug in to kind of build around. And when you're looking at this, that's going to be your most viable option, is going to be Lev Bell here. So I think he's probably going to be pretty popular, but at the same point, if he's out there for, 10 plays and he catches a few balls and he does something with it, he's going to be in the optimal. So not a play I'd play if I was only playing one lineup, but would really consider him. And that's how I look at it. So let's build, again, I built the Hill lineup. Let's come here and build one of the cheaper lineups and see what it do. Like, again, if you run any optimizer right now, even though DFS Army, you're gonna get probably Ronald Jones up at captain because of his price. But let's say Antonio Brown comes back, or even let's say it's Brown. I didn't even bring this up. Let's say Gronk. I'm going to say this. I didn't even bring him up as a captain, but maybe I feel good about just running Hill and Kelsey on the KC side and screw Sammy Watkins, but then come back and run Gronk because there's so many different weapons on Tampa Bay. Playoff Lenny and then the 3 wide receivers. And that would still give me 7, but I would get rid of Watkins and pull in Gronk. Because if I think Gronk's going to have a big game, he opens up so much. So we threw Gronk in here at captain. Say he catches 6 or 7 balls or 8 balls for 100 and a touchdown. He's probably going to be the captain there unless the Hill goes completely off. So we throw him in there and I say, well, I want Kelsey and I want Hill because they're going to still do their thing. I still got 8K left with this. So you can look around and it's like, well, again, I still think playoff Lenny's going to be involved. Bruce Arians still going to want to, keep what's been working for him lately with the way the offense has been. So I want to throw him in there. I still got plenty of a salary here. I can come up. You could throw Mahomes in. You got 4,300 still. You could even throw Watkins in this lineup, which would be fantastic. That way you get all 3 pass catchers and Mahomes. This would basically be a KC onslaught stack with Gronk and Lenny bringing it back. You'd have to hope KC went completely off there. Or maybe, like I said, maybe you go Tom Brady here, and then you get like an Antonio Brown, which would be interesting. Here's like all the points are going to be scored through KC and through the air. Like they're all going to be scored. Kelsey's going to have 3 touchdowns. Hill's going to have 2 touchdowns. And then on the other side, Fournette's going to get 1 or 2 touchdowns near the goal line. Gronk's going to catch one, but catch a bunch of balls. And then maybe Antonio Brown catches 2 or 3 in this lineup with Gronk. It's a very interesting build this here. So much upside here if Gronk would get you 20 fantasy points. And Lenny gets you 20 and Brown gets you 20. I mean, like this has a massive upside putting Gronk up there. So just again, another sample build here. I think there's lots of ways to go. I could build lots of sample builds here. I like to do this early in the week, but again, we have 2 weeks to mess around with this. Once we get ownership projections kind of figured out and kind of see where the public's going to go and who's being talked up and kind of really dig into all that stuff. I really feel like, there's some ways to get different even on the Super Bowl thing. And I will say this, if you are building a lineup with leaving no salary on the table, if it's using every bit of it, it's going to be played in this $1 million contest. I'll just say that right now. Now, maybe it's one of those things where, you love the lineup so much. But when you're playing these contests like this, where you have, 650,000 entries, to get different, you're going to have to leave salary on the table. So maybe I'm building this lineup and I'm like, everyone's going to play Brown, right? Well, maybe I'll come down here and I'll throw Brait in here. And hopefully Brait is the one that catches. And it's just a tight end game. And Gronk and Brait go nuts. Or I throw Watkins in this, like I said. And all the touchdowns go between Kelsey, Hill, and Watkins on the KC side. And I'm leaving almost 2K of salary on the table. There's still a good lineup in my opinion. But you need to be able to have that thought process that, hey, I'm going to leave salary on the table. Don't worry about it. You don't have to think about, well, what's too much? There's not too much in slates like this. Now, if I was building a 3-max entry, yes, I would put Brown in this lineup. No problem. I would build this lineup and I'd say, okay, let me put Antonio Brown in it. If I'm building this lineup to try to win $1 million, you got to be different. You got to throw in a Brait. You got to throw in a Watkins and hope those are the guys that catch multiple touchdowns and it's not Antonio Brown, or Watkins is catching touchdowns and it's not Brown. But even if I did that, I'm probably looking at like the onslaught stack, but again, you throw Watkins in this and you go up to Mahomes, you only left $100 on the table. Someone's going to have that lineup for sure. So there's a couple ways to do it. You got 2 weeks to build lineups. If you really want to be serious at it, there's a few times I would hand build 150 lineups. And when I say hand build, what I do is I'll take our domination station optimizer. I will lock in one of my captains. Say I want to run. This is how I like to do these showdowns, especially when we have a lot of time. I lock in Gronk, right? And say I want 15 lineups of Gronk. So I will take the optimizer, I'll take Gronk, and I will run 50. And I'll just kind of go look at them and see which ones I like and don't like. And be like, oh, I like that lineup. So when I say hand build, I'll hand build 150, but I'm doing it with the optimizer. I'm letting it do the work, but I'm locking in that captain and kind of looking and sifting through and looking at lineups and be like, that's an interesting lineup. That one's leaving a ton on salary. That one, no, I don't really care for that one because it doesn't correlate real well. But when you have time, use it. Start now. Don't start, Friday or Saturday before the Super Bowl. We have plenty of time. Get out there, start building some lineups, figuring out what is going on. And again, to go back to here on DraftKings, I would completely fade Mahomes and Brady up in the captain because I think it's going to be a wide receiver or tight end that's going to, again, break the slate. And it's not going to be one of those guys on DraftKings. On FanDuel, it's a different story. I will do another video specifically for FanDuel and kind of just early look, first talk about it. But when we talk about, DraftKings, that's how I'm initially approaching it. It could change, and I'll have that opinion when we get later over for the VIP members at DFS Army. But as of right now, that's just kind of how I do it first look, and I like to do that early in the week. And again, we have 2 weeks for this. But with that, again, if you stuck around this long, I appreciate each and every one of you. If you hit that subscribe button, I really appreciate you. We are slowly getting there. And again, if you're not a VIP DFS Army member, I don't know what you're doing, man. We just keep printing money over there. Just sign up, use promo code CashKeg, and we will keep winning. Hope you enjoyed it. I'll see you in the next video. Deuces.